when we think of the people in positions of power who have abused it, who essentially need to be done with in order to usher in a new generation of hockey people, you have to think about Don Cherry and his place. And you have to, it's easy to make those connections with some of the people we've seen since. And it seems as if the latest guy to kind of fall victim to that is Bob Murray, the Anaheim Ducks GM. And I'll be quite honest with you. I heard about the fact that he was going to be on administrative leave while I was on the airplane going back to Montreal from Toronto. And I was very surprised at it. And as the days have gone by, where obviously as we're speaking now, he has since resigned and he is now in a alcohol abuse program, I'm hearing all this stuff about Bob Murray and how he was as a person and kind of like rumblings. Like, I didn't know anything about Bob Murray as a person. So I was very genuinely surprised that it came to that. So what were your thoughts on hearing that story and seeing the fallout since?
Well, I was surprised too. You know, I think there's this thought out there that everyone knows everything all the time. And you know, obviously I'm in a privileged position inside the media. You know, I've been around Bob a little bit. Certainly don't pretend to know him well or anything like that. But, you know, we're talking about a very old school hockey guy. You know, 45 straight years he worked in the NHL, back to when he was a player, to a scout, to someone in administration, to the GM of the Anaheim Ducks for almost 13 years. I mean, it's hard not to look at the fact that a lot of this happened over the years, you know, the things that ultimately led to an investigation into his behavior and ultimately his resignation. But we're only reported here in the last few weeks. I mean, This is where we're already seeing, you know, the effects of Kyle Beach, I think, having the, you know, we've obviously applauded him for speaking out with Rick Westhead being open by putting a face and a heart and his emotion to his story, the awful details of what he dealt with in Chicago. But I think that the fallout from that now is you do have a little bit more empowerment for those that have felt that they've seen inappropriate behavior in NHL workplaces to come forward and speak up. And, you know, I'm quite interested to see what else, you know, might come from this, Julian, because, you know, I'm with you. The more we've heard about what was going on with the Ducks, this is just sort of was part of what it meant to be a Duck. I mean, Bob Murray worked there for 16 seasons, I believe, you know, 13 in the head job. You know, at one point he was even the head coach of the team briefly, you know, after making a coaching change. You know, obviously had a lot of power in those walls and didn't use it in the best manner possible at all times. And so, you know, I do hope from a personal level that, you know, his treatment gets him to a better place. But the fact that this all happened in a span of like 2 weeks is really quite something. And it speaks to the power of that NHL hotline. I know we're not in a spot here where the NHL is getting big praise or anything like that, but the fact that they have an independent hotline that's administered by Deloitte, that we've now seen lead to what's happened here with Bob Murray, potentially to other people, you know, I do think is a good place to start. That some of the culture of secrecy around this league is obviously going by the wayside, and you know, it's amazing right now as we're talking in November. You've got 2 interim GMs and an interim head coach for different teams for different reasons, but it's all related to things that have happened just, you know, since this season started.
I wonder if we really are in the midst of like a really big reckoning shakeup, because what happened with the Blackhawks was devastating to hear. And obviously the guys who are in power with that organization are no longer there. And when we heard that the league had sent out a memo to every team, essentially, you know, saying that they do not want a repeat of that, and they want people to, well, I won't say that they want people to go up and step up and say, well, yeah, they kind of did. But
actually, they demanded in that memo, October 28th, like it's mandatory that you report incidences that are unlawful or clearly across the line of what the league wants. Yeah. And they have to be reported to Gary Bettman or Bill Daly or this hotline. Like, I mean, basically these things go right to the top.
Yeah. So thank you for that clarification. Actually, you are right. But the Ducks did this. Who's to say another team doesn't step up and do something or say something? Like, I don't know. It's just like one. Sometimes for some of these things, all it takes is one instance to kind of set everyone aflame. And then everyone realized, well, hey, you know what? These people found strength to do this. We should step up and do something. Like this Ducks thing is a direct answer to that memo.
It is. And, we've talked about it with like the mental health stuff or substance abuse, like the players having an ability to share that makes it easier for the next player. I think that the more these incidences are being called on the carpet, whistleblowing, however you want to refer to it, I think it does get a little easier if there's someone out there that feels they've been on the wrong end of something like this. And they now know, there's a lot more awareness that there is this resource available. You can email that hotline, you can call and talk to an operator in English or French, or you can leave a voicemail in one of 9 languages, basically all the European languages that hockey players or people in hockey commonly speak, and that will be relayed to the right place. You can do it anonymously. You can report with your name. It's very clear to me that the league is setting a high bar here before, higher than it's been. It's saying this is mandatory, which I take to being there could be punishment if you don't do it, if you willingly ignore something now. And they're making it easy to report what's gone on. We're not even 2 full years since Akeem Aliu, had to take his allegations from Bill Peters to Twitter because there really wasn't a mechanism like this. And it's not, and I'm not certainly saying he should or shouldn't have done. He certainly got, I think, the outcome he was hoping for there, although not entirely. It sounds like, there's still some unresolved issues between Akeem and the league. But what I mean is he called attention to something he wanted to bring attention to that way. But now I think there's a lot, maybe less intimidating ways. I don't know how to put this because I've never had to report something like this,
right.
But I'm sure it isn't easy. And so it's a little easier if you can do it with some level of discretion. So yeah, I think it's a significant development that that Bob Murray is being investigated for, alleged incidents that happened over a number of years to both players and staff, and that, they were all only reported here in the last couple of weeks, since essentially the Kyle Beach story got blown wide open. So, it leads me, I don't know of any specific instances. Like, I'm not going to sit here and speculate where else trouble might be. That's not fair to anybody or productive, but I do think it's reasonable to assume that the culture we're talking about has produced other bad actors, bad incidents. And, I think this is a reckoning of some degree. NHLPA is doing an investigation too, right? We don't know where that will go. This thing has a lot of tentacles and I don't think they're all evident to us yet, Julian. And the Bob Murray thing was a surprise to me as of 48 hours ago, and he's already out of his job. Who knows what the next sort of landmine will be or what the next explosive piece of news might be.